Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai. Drinking from the cup of faith. SATSANG of Gauri Singla, wife of R.P. Singla. Even if I am granted a million tongues to talk about Guruji's grace, they will not be sufficient, as his blessings are endless. Endless too are incidents marked by his love and care towards his devotees. Since the day I got his darshan, I am learning from and about Guruji. Even today, when one hears of Guruji's blessings falling on someone, I find that everyone is just a child, a learner in front of him. A new beginning. It was August of 1998. My husband came back early from office and told me that he was joining his friend, Wing Commander Chopra, to go to Guruji's place. He was then a firm non-believer in saints and Mahapurushas, and this decision came as a surprise. He left at around 6 in the evening and returned well past midnight. I was desperate to know how it all went off. So as soon as he settled down after coming home, I threw a volley of questions at him. Did Guruji deliver sermons, predict the future, or prescribe stones and mantras to pacify disturbances in life? My husband's answers were unexpected. He said that Guruji did not preach or sermonize, and that Shabads, devotional songs based on the Guru Granth Sahib, were placed in Guruji's mandir. We went to bed, and knowing my husband's nature, I considered his visit a passing affair. He wouldn't even remember what would have happened the next evening. I thought. Imagine my surprise the next evening when my husband called up from office to convey that he was leaving for Guruji's place and will be coming late. When he returned as late as the previous night, I asked him a simple question. What pulled you back to that place? He had a simple answer. What I got there is not something which can be explained. It is something that can only be experienced. Intrigued, our family decided to go for Guruji's darshan the next evening. How the Guru's door opened. On my husband's third visit, my children and I accompanied him. We were 20 to 30 meters from Guruji's place and could smell a very strong fragrance. When we entered the hall where Guruji sat, the fragrance was all around us. The first thing that came to my mind was, this gentleman has put on so much perfume that the entire hall is filled with fragrance. He is probably a very hi-fi, stylish Guruji. Even after my husband's description, Guruji's first darshan was stunning and different from my initial presumptions. Our share of unimaginable things was just about to go up. As soon as I got up after bowing to Guruji, he straightway said in Punjabi, "Finally you have come, a disciple of Gurgaon's saint." This was just a mild indicator of how he knew me inside out at my very first visit to his place. For apart from our family, no one knew of the saint we had been frequenting. Chai Prasad, sips of faith. At Guruji's place, tea was the first and sometimes even the last refreshment served. I have been allergic to tea leaves since childhood. My mouth would fill with ulcers if I had tea in any form. However, as soon as we settled down in the Sangat, a person came around offering tea. I was in a fix as I was not willing to say no to the prasad. Suddenly, I realized that the person serving tea had skipped me. I was relieved. I was neither required to say no to prasad nor was I pushed to consuming tea. This instant relief was countered by a second thought. I had been deprived of prasad and thus the blessing at this holy place. All this was happening within me, but the world outside was moving as I was speaking aloud. Immediately, the person serving tea turned back and offered it to me. This had me stunned since that person seemed to be responding to my internal conversation. Anyhow, the moment I overcame the shock, I realized he was waiting for me to pick a glass. I immediately picked a glass and, amidst resistance from other family members, drank a glass of tea. No mean feat for someone who had never had tea since early childhood. This was followed by two or three more classes in the span of the next few hours that we spent at Guruji's place that day. We left Guruji's place at around 1 a.m. Next morning, I expected to have great pain with my mouth full of ulcers, but my mouth was fresh as never before, with not a trace of the ulcers. Everyone was amazed. Till date, I can only drink tea without any ill effects at only one place in the world, at Guruji's temple. And I can drink it anywhere if Guruji's physical presence is around me. If I drink tea at home or another place, I end up with a sore mouth. This demonstrated the tremendous protective power of Guruji, turning a mere consumable to a healing prasad which has the power of throwing disease and troubles away. Anything served at his place in his blissful presence can only serve as a tool for showering blessings and can never have a negative impact. After my initiation into the world of blissful tea drinkers, all of us in the family were in for another surprise. A fragrance, which I thought was that of the perfume which Guruji uses, began spreading in our living room. We were fascinated to get that fragrance in our home. Unable to comprehend anything, we enjoyed smelling it for the short while it lasted. It was only during subsequent visits that we realized that the fragrance comes naturally of Guruji and indicates his presence. Further events unfolded Guruji's Sharan in a pronounced manner. Every day turned miraculous. Guruji, a power above all others. There are good times and bad times in life. Happy times find you surrounded by people, but in the hour of grief, Guruji is the only one who stands by you and bails you out. Many people can be willing to support you, but all of them are helpless when the forces acting against you are beyond their control. But Guruji's unconditional support protects you against all odds. You have to bear the consequences of your karma. But in the divine refuge of Guruji, I have seen nature in a helpless position, since any punishment before reaching a follower of Guruji is either completely erased or lessened to a very high degree. This comes at the expense of Guruji, who bears the brunt of your suffering. His tools to relieve you of your trouble and suffering are varied, which is evident from the spectrum of experiences I've had. Once I had a severe headache while sitting in the Sangat. Its intensity was such that I was not able to eat or drink anything. Nothing was sinking in. Then suddenly I was summoned by Guruji. He told me that he had a severe headache and asked me to press his forehead for a few minutes. I returned to the place where I was sitting and suddenly realized my headache had disappeared. By asking me to serve him, he had relieved me of the headache. Once I had a terrible fever which lingered for some time. Even after a lot of checkups and medication, the fever did not subside. With strong medicines, it took 2 weeks to come under control, but not for long. My fever developed a strange pattern. It used to be fairly normal during daytime, but with the coming of the evening, my temperature would rise. This continued for the next 4 weeks. Unable to reach a diagnosis, the doctors were helpless. All tests and prescriptions failed to yield any result. Then one day, Guruji asked my husband why I had been absent for such a long time from the Sangat. When Guruji was told the reason, Guruji asked my husband to use 5 green chilies in the manner he prescribed. And that was it. The next day, my fever, my companion for over a month, disappeared and I slowly regained my health. Thanks to Guruji, I survived another bout of fever. Along with my family, I had planned a visit to Guruji's Bade Mandir, though I was running a mild fever. But as we proceeded and reached the mandir, my condition deteriorated and the fever took an aggressive form. I was hardly able to get up. Rather unexpectedly, Guruji came to the mandir that day. Guruji's visits to the mandir in those days were rare, as some construction work was going on. Guruji told my husband and a Sangat member to prepare fresh lime water and give it to me, clearly stating that this will help cure the fever. The fever disappeared as if it was never there. Guruji knew of my state without anyone telling him and provided instant relief. No one else can extend such selfless support and care at all times, just by his word. The means Guruji uses to bestow his blessings are sometimes meant just for our consolation. For it has been seen that these are not required since it is Guruji's power that makes it all happen. Physical tools used by Guruji are a means to let devotees feel they are receiving his attention. An insect bite on the toe led to terrible pain, and the toe swelled up viciously. An ointment I used as suggested by a doctor was of no help. The doctor suggested minor surgery to avoid aggravation. But the same day, without my husband telling him, Guruji himself inquired about the insect bite, and that was enough. The bite grew less painful and the spot showed a marked improvement. In the next few days, it disappeared. Such are Guruji's powers. Even more surprisingly, he cured me of diabetes. It was detected way back in 1999 2000. Diabetes is conventionally a disease that can be suppressed but not cured. However, in my case, Guruji just shooed it away. In a few months, without medicines or treatment, purely with Guruji's grace, I was cured. Neither had Guruji's mentioned the problem. Guruji's words, though said very casually, have a deep impact. They are, in fact, an order binding for the entire cosmos. And here is what happens when his command is taken lightly. When we started coming regularly, Guruji called my husband and told him to come only twice a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We followed his instructions, but trying to compensate for the days lost, we started leaving home earlier. One day, we reached at 6 p.m. as against the scheduled time of 8 p.m. for the satsang. Guruji then instructed us to reach at 8 p.m. And it so started happening that irrespective of the time we left home, we would reach Guruji's place only at 8 p.m. Once we had left home at 5:30 p.m. but found the 25 kilometers distance to Guruji made agonizingly slow due to a spate of traffic jams. Finally, we reached at 8 p.m. But we covered the same distance in half an hour when we were delayed and could depart home only at 7:30 p.m. Langar showers blessings. Our nature occasionally puts us into situations which later make us look silly. Once I was on a fast which required that I abstain from wheat products. My diet for that day comprised solely fruits. When we went to attend Guruji's Sangat, I decided not to go for langar at all, for it had chapatis and thought no one will know. More than 200 people had gathered that day, and langar was given out in 6 rounds. But Guruji noticed that I did not have langar and specifically instructed me to go and have langar in the last round. Not daring to break the fast, I went to the first floor of Empire Estate Mandir. The Sangat was then conducted on the ground floor and the langar was served on the first floor, and decided to sit in a corner and then go back to the Sangat hall. I had thus committed two blunders. One, I did not understand the meaning and importance of Guruji's words, due to which I failed to obey instructions. And two, I tried to deceive Guruji, not realizing that the omniscient eye is not hindered by physical barriers. But as soon as I came back to the Sangat hall, Guruji gave me a hard stare and immediately asked someone to bring sweets for distribution among the Sangat. He started distributing the prasad, and when it was my turn, he gave me more than twice than what he gave to others, as though compensating for the langar that I had skipped. Back home, when I ran through the whole sequence of events in my mind, I realized my mistake. The message from Guruji was loud and clear. Don't skip the langar. I only later realized that prasad is Guruji's tool to shower his blessings. It is immaterial of its physical form, and any given opportunity should be grabbed with both hands, as these blessings are too precious to miss. Guruji comes between our truck and our car. My husband and I were on our way to the Sangat from Noida, but we got stuck at a particular traffic light that went red for the third time running. We were still, however, only within sniffing distance of clearing it. So as soon as the light turned green, my husband accelerated. There was a high body truck right in front of our car, which also accelerated initially, but then came to a halt due to a cyclist falling right in front. This left my husband with no reaction time. He could sense a collision. Suddenly, I saw Guruji in front of the car and screamed, Guruji! It took us a few moments to regain our senses. When we got out of the car after a while, we saw the car had moved underneath the truck body but had not been damaged. The car's bumper was just inches away from the truck tire. I realized why Guruji had appeared in front of the car. Had he not, we could not have avoided the accident. Even more surprising was what happened when my husband was sharing this experience with one of the Sangat members. He had barely narrated how I saw Guruji in front of our car when the lady he was sharing our experience with suddenly inquired if our car was a blue Maruti 800. My husband said yes. The devotee then clarified that she had seen the incident in her dream. She added that she clearly saw Guruji coming right in between the car and that truck. It was hair raising to hear her account. No one can escape his eye. Once Guruji summoned me and asked me to fetch a person. Since I did not know this man, he told me that he was fat and sitting right behind a pillar, an area not visible from Guruji's seat. On my way, I was wondering how it is possible to identify a single person with just these two clues. But I found only a single fat person sitting in that whole area, and I conveyed Guruji's call to that person. This just indicated how clearly Guruji was able to see through that wall to its other side. Guruji can, if he wishes, to clearly spell out what had happened in the past, what is happening around the globe at present, and how the future would be. When my children, a daughter and a son, were still in school, Guruji once mentioned casually that both the kids will get a job in Siemens. At that point of time, it was hard to believe this. But finally, after 6 years, the same came true when both children started their respective careers with Siemens. Similarly, it was sometime in the year 2000 that Guruji told me that my daughter's marriage will take place in the year 2005. And that's how it actually turned out to be. She got married on 30th April 2005. Experiences in Shiva's heaven. Guruji's Bade Mandir is a very special place. Located at the edges of the capital city, you tend to forget worldly troubles in its atmosphere of virgin purity. For me, it is the only place where, irrespective of Guruji's physical presence, I can have tea anytime and any number of times. But this probably is indicative of just the most minute fraction of the mandir's power. If one believes only what she has experienced, I have to believe in the existence of a supreme power at this place. Once I was granted an opportunity to visit the mandir along with my family. Typically, whenever we visit the mandir, every member of the family moves around freely, irrespective of what other members are doing. So, shortly after reaching the mandir in the forenoon hours, I went to one of the rooms of Guruji just to check if some dusting or cleaning was required there. The room has a very beautiful statue of Lord Shiva, which shows him sitting with folded legs, showering blessings on his followers. We have been watching the perfectly crafted statue since the day we started coming to the mandir. But that day, the darshan of the statue sent a chill down my spine. I was shocked to witness that the face had turned about 60 degrees to the right. I gathered everyone in the mandir and everyone saw this. It was even more surprising to see the same statue regain original form slowly over the day. By evening, it had almost reverted to its usual front facing posture. Truly a hard to forget incident. Then Holi, the festival of colors of year 2006, had something special in store. In the morning, when we reached the mandir, everyone took up some chore or the other, and I, along with our neighbor Sangeeta, started cleaning Lord Shiva's brass idol in the main hall. The polish for this metal, known as brasso, was applied to the idol. It was then rubbed twice with a clean cloth. I was cleaning off the brasso while Sangeeta had to give it a final finish. I was through with the upper half. The idol was clean and just needed a final finish. Sangeeta had already started the task when she pointed out that there was some color between the snakes wrapped around the neck of Lord Shiva. Since I had just cleaned that area, I turned to check this. A streak of color caught my eye. Then, gathering myself, I called everyone else in the mandir to have darshan of this miracle. The colors, which acquired various shades during the day, were seen by everyone who visited the mandir that day. All these incidents reflect Guruji's powers. But he is much beyond these mysterious miracles which come to light. His powers are beyond our comprehension. With my hands folded in prayers, I would just like to thank Guruji for all that he has given me and request his continued grace on the entire Sangat. Shukrana, Guruji.